Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Wisconsin Sports Lounge. I am your host, Scott, and this is my co-host, Ryan. If you didn't see last week's episode, obviously we talking about Wisconsin sports. And I'm talking the Packers, the Brewers, the Badgers, and the Bucks. You want to give them a little more information on it?
Yeah, I mean, as we talked about last week, but we'll try to remind always, we're going to talk about all things from those four teams, draft, free agency, injury, hot news, especially wrap-ups a little bit of games that are important, see where they're at, and discuss those things. And obviously, on top of all that, the hot news that comes out of each of them that we feel is important and we would love to hear and talk about with you. So I think that's pretty much what every show will always be about.
All right, I think you guys got it. It's good. Just get right started to it. The Green Bay Packers, America's favorite team. Preseason game, they got the win, 21-7. First team offense looked fantastic.
Yeah.
What'd you think about Aaron Rodgers in that first performance he had?
Yeah, well, unlike last week, which anyone who watched our show can tell, last week was a terrible game in many reasons. It was torrential downpour. This game, obviously, dome, much smoother, a lot nicer to watch. Players were, it wasn't such a mess. And yeah, Rodgers, for being his first game out, it gave us a lot of confidence in our quarterback.
The timing that he had. I mean, that was phenomenal. The first time out, most quarterbacks aren't going to be able to get the timing down 10 yards, boom, ball's there.
Yeah.
Most people aren't going to be able to do that.
Yeah, 6-6 on that first drive, but on top of all that, I think when I was looking through it, I mean, I watched the game, but you're into it, you're not paying attention. I think he passed to 4 different receivers in those 6 passes, so he's spreading the ball around right off the bat, and being accurate to each of them. I mean, and so yeah,
that's a good thing. I mean, you want to spread the ball around because Jordy, he's the number 1 receiver now. He's going to get the top cornerbacks. You can't expect him to always get open. Yeah. That's where Randall Cobb is really going to come into play in that slot position. He's going to be going against linebackers, so he's going to have a fun time this year.
Yeah. Well, and the beauty of it too, not just that he, especially that first drive, not just spread, which of course culminated in a touchdown, as you said.
But it was balanced.
Yeah, balanced
too.
But balance on top of that was he got it to Lacey, who's a truck. For 2 times, Lacey got the ball for 22 yards. And on top of that, the balance of their offense, not just on Rodgers' focus, but Lacey able to take the ball 5 times, 25 yards, keep pushing the chains, keep moving them. I mean, the defense, St. Louis, I mean, they didn't know where the ball was going, who it was going to go to.
They ran the hurry-up offense the entire first drive.
Whole time.
And that's another thing. I mean, for everybody to be on page like that, everyone to get the information through, and to be as sound as they were, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was excellent on offense, first drive offense. Defense, they were good the first drive, pretty good. Then they started slipping up. You saw some of the holes, some of the injuries, some guys having to step in. And that's why we say, too, with Rodgers and all these guys, Lacey, this is the first real physical contact they've been hitting against outside their team. I mean, to have the timing, to have the balance that they have.
Tell me you weren't just a little bit worried when Rodgers ran for that 14 yards.
Well, sure.
Please just slide, don't get hit. Please don't get hit.
I think anybody who
protect that collarbone. Don't do it.
Anybody who cares about their quarterback, much less if he's one of the top ones in the league, feels that way. And preseason is not the time you want it to happen.
Well, of course not.
It's not. It's never worth it. So yeah, but he's a gamer. He loves the game. He even if it's preseason, he wants to show that his time in the game matters. So, So defense, as I said, they started to slip up a little bit, but
Clinton Dix got a sack during the game. I think he's going to be very good, and Nick Saban, Alabama product.
Yep.
But Micah Hyde's got that role right now sealed up.
And I saw as I was watching Peppers, which is one of their big acquisitions. People are worried his age; he's past the time, but he had one hurry on Bradford that was old school Peppers, getting around the corner, coming. I mean, and that's where most people's debate is he should be playing.
That's where I believe he should be playing most of the time. I think he's going to be a first and second down guy where he's just rushing the quarterback. I don't know if he's going to be able to come out and defend a running back or take a tight end or whatever. He hasn't played that. Is he athletic enough to do that? Sure, I think he's athletic enough to do that. Yeah, he's got quite a bit of time in the NFL, but I mean, he's still more athletic than most defensive linemen.
Yeah.
So I think that's where he's probably going to be played most of the season, or getting into like week 8, week 9. They might end up just put him as a first and second down pass rusher, and that's maybe where his spot is.
Probably, and to preserve his stamina for the rest of the way.
Yeah.
Keep the injury possibility low. I mean, I don't have an issue with him. Like I love him playing that position. Obviously, when he was with the Panthers, and then when he went to the Bears, I mean, that was his DN doing exactly what he did, coming off the edge, pretty much, and bending like he did on that play that Bradford got real lucky he got the ball away at all. So, but he's 6'7". If the matchups work, if the matchups right, like you said, a tight end that's not their best, like you're not playing Jimmy Graham or Gronkowski or some of those tight ends. If you're playing, some of the lower tight ends, if you're playing not like shifty.
Who can play Jimmy Graham and who can play
right?
Gronkowski?
Nobody.
When they're healthy, when they want to catch a ball, they're going to catch a ball. They're two of the best tight ends.
But
come on.
I like having a 6'7" guy disrupting the middle of that. The short lanes of the field.
Well, sure, you want to maybe jam him at the line or whatever.
Correct. Yeah. So there was positive, like we said, there was positives there. The defense played very well. I mean, it was not like last week where it was a lot more. I mean, as we said, it was. Well, it was not a game. There was no point in watching that game. You
can't really base the defense on last week's game because a lot of it's going to be running.
Right.
You're going to put 8 people in the box because when it's raining that hard, most quarterbacks aren't going to be able to throw it with accuracy. So, yeah, you can't really judge the defense in the first preseason game. So,
yeah. But outside of that, the first offense looked really good. I mean, Corliss as a tight end has been seemingly getting more and more touches and looking better.
35-yard reception yesterday.
Yeah.
Got open. Yeah.
I mean, 4 or 5 catches, so they're targeting him even. They're not like letting him just be high and dry. And I mean, Nelson, obviously, Jordy looked good, and some of these, Cobb looked good.
And I like what the Packers do with that. They don't have to pay guys a lot of money because they have another guy that can step up.
Yeah.
They always have another guy. Jordy was that guy. He stepped up. James Jones last year, he stepped up. He's with Oakland now, but because he wanted
more money.
Oh, it was like Greg Jennings.
Yeah.
They want the money. But, it just always seems like one guy goes down, another guy's going to come back up for the Green Bay Packers. So Ted Thompson's done a phenomenal job, really building this team.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, and the rest of the game, I mean, obviously it's preseason, so we're not going to bore you with all those details. I mean, Packers scored twice more. A guy named Janis, who was very fast, caught a ball for 34 yards and scored a touchdown. He was very fast.
Think he'll make the team?
Dude, they got so many wide receivers.
It's going to be interesting.
It's tough. They got guys that Boykin who came up last year who looks good.
Boykin looks really good.
Aaron
Rodgers targeted him. That first drive, he made 2 passes to him. 2 or 3 passes that on third downs to get that first down. It was a nice, quick route to him. And he did a real phenomenal job.
Yeah. And last, because I never want to forget him, because that's one of the positions I played last year, the offensive line looks more solid this year than they did last year. Yeah, the addition of
their job.
JC at center and having healthy guys back who got hurt, unfortunately, last year, they look like they're giving him the time Rodgers needs. Now.
You give Rodgers 3 or 4 seconds.
Yep.
He's going to be able to find a receiver, or he's going to be able to scramble out, get outside the pocket, and find someone that way, which he did with Randall Cobb.
Yep.
He waited. Cobb got himself open. Yep. Sure enough, touchdown.
And he would have had a second one to Jordy if Bakhtiari didn't have to grab the little bit.
Aaron Rodgers said after the game that the refs are going a little ridiculous with all these penalty calls. The flow of the game is going to be terrible if they continue to make those ticky-tack fouls.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. And it's preseason, so they want to make it a point that they're going to call these during the regular season, but I don't think they will.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think they'll.
Yeah, and before we go to the last topic of our preseason game, I didn't notice it. I wasn't paying as much attention to it, I guess, but I do like the new field goal thing they're testing out in.
Yeah, this was the last week that they're
trying it out.
Yeah.
I do like that though, 33-yard field goal.
Yeah,
That really would make it interesting,
Yeah.
like in Lambeau, when it's 10, 15
Yeah.
degrees, it's snowing. You know, a 30-yard field goal is not going to be automatic.
Well, and it makes it makes a touchdown not a guaranteed 7.
Yeah,
I mean, a PAT used to be. It's a waste of time.
It's a 10-yard field goal.
You might as well
whatever.
just give
15-yard field goal, whatever.
They'll
Make it 100 times out of 100.
I like them in that way, at least making it a little more difficult.
So I don't know if they'll go to it this year or
next year, but I think it was a good trial run.
Sure.
Because I think they will go to it in the future.
I don't think
I actually personally
I don't think they can implement it this year.
No, I don't think they will. I think it was
But-
obviously just a trial run, but
Yep.
I think they will eventually go to that in the future because it will make the game a lot more interesting. Say you're down 7, you score the touchdown. Not a guarantee you're going to get that extra point now.
Nope.
Or you might go for 2.
Because you'd rather take that chance.
Take that chance instead of going for a 30-yard field goal and it's terrible weather or whatever.
That's what I say. I like it. I like it personally. So I guess the last thing we want to talk about in preseason, because for the Packers it is important. Rodgers is our guy. Obviously, we love him.
God forbid he goes down like he did last year.
So pretty
we might
much
have to deal with Flynn or Tolzien.
Yes. So that's why. So pretty much our last 2 parts of the Packers are quarterback versus quarterback that we're going to discuss. And the first one is Tolzien and Flynn. I guess you could tell them how they did, and then we'll discuss.
Well, Tolzien went 10 for 15 for 107 yards. He looked pretty good.
Yep.
Matt Flynn 2 for 3, 44 yards and a touchdown. He looked pretty good too. I don't really know which way this is gonna go because it's probably gonna go down in the last preseason game. I don't know who they like more because they brought in Flynn last year because Tolzien couldn't handle the job.
Sure. Well, and I guess. And that was after Seneca Wallace was a disaster.
Well, okay.
And
whoa. Seneca Wallace got hurt. Let's not say it was a disaster.
Right, sorry.
Tore a groin muscle.
Well,
Give him a break.
He did not have.
I think he would have actually done a really good job if he didn't, unfortunately, get hurt for us. I actually liked him as a pickup last year.
But Tolzien ended up, he ended up being a very dedicated guy. They rave about him, that he's in there constantly working.
I'm sure he's a great worker, great teammate.
So the question is, and we saw yesterday, the question is, yesterday they gave Tolzien with the 2s, and mostly Flynn got with the tail end of the 2s and the 3s. And like I said, they didn't do badly. Obviously, Flynn barely had to throw. But, in your opinion, who do you take? Who do you think both deserves the number 2 and would you rather see as the number 2? So deserves and would you rather are 2 different.
Right now, that is a very good question. To deserves and who would you rather? At deserves, I think it's Scott Tolzien at this point. He's played really well in the preseason. He's done everything people have asked him. But Matt Flynn has done it before. He's come in the Packer games, regular season games, and won us games. So I think if it's in a real regular season game, I think you might have to go with Matt Flynn.
Yeah, that's
my personal opinion, but I think the Packers would have more confidence in Matt Flynn to get the job done than Scott Tolzien.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it. Chances are, hopefully, because of Rodgers, there's a good injury that he's had a couple of them. There's a good chance they keep all 3, just in case something, like we said, knock on wood, and hopefully nothing does happen. But if it does, they probably will keep 3. That way, they have one that especially a young guy in Tolzien who's going to build.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll keep both. It's just who's going to get that the backup spot. The
reason I like Tolzien, I'd say, is the 3, and I like him actually better than Flynn from what I've seen, especially now.
Yeah.
What I've seen, but what I like at him because I see they rave about his dedication, his studying the playbook. He's one of those guys they say he's one of the first guys in and the last guys out. In every business, you go from every type of sport to everything. The guys who are there first and leave last, they're all successful. They all do really well. People like them because they, But the reason I like him because of that, I think he's a studier. He's going to be the perfect scout team quarterback for in practice to give the defense the proper. And I think Flynn, who's been around long enough, I think I'd rather have him just be holding that clipboard, talking to Rodgers, on the sidelines, because he's seen much more of the game than And I think still when it comes down to it, Flynn coming in the game will have the confidence in that moment. Tolzien right now, maybe the confidence. Really, there's no pressure on either of them. They're gonna probably both make the team.
Well,
It's just
of course.
who.
Yeah, I would be very surprised if they don't keep the third quarterback.
Yes.
I wouldn't see why you wouldn't.
So
just in case Aaron would go down, you'd still need to go and get another quarterback. So
right. But it is for watching because of going out and getting Flynn last year. It is interesting how tight it has seemed, that for the Packers between the two of them. There's no, I mean, it's not clear to anybody which way they're really going to go.
They've said it's going to go down to the final, probably be final moments, final preseason game.
Yep.
So it's going to take all of this training camp.
Yeah.
So
it's, but it's every position in football, especially. It's fun because it's always a competition, even in those places. You're a team, you work together, but you're also always competing for a job. You want to keep your job in some capacity.
It's got to be tough for them, too. You want to root for them, but you're also trying to beat them out of a job.
Yep.
So that's got to be an interesting locker room thing with everybody, not just, Tolzien and Flynn, but, with any position. You're talking Clinton Dix and Micah Hyde. I'm sure Clinton Dix thinks in his heart he's better than Micah Hyde.
Sure.
Micah Hyde is right now a lot better than he is.
Yeah. Well, that's experiences are just even a year of experience is enough. That.
Well, yeah, Micah Hyde. I mean,
Dixon's got to learn.
He was like 2 inches from sealing that game against San Francisco. Yeah. I'm sure it still haunts him.
Oh, sure.
Haunts me.
Yeah. So, with that, like I said, the quarterback comparison, we had that. And like we talked about, Rodgers has no pressure there.
Rodgers, I don't think he's going to have any competition.
Flynn and Tolzien will not overtake him. We're pretty sure. I think we could bet on that one. But it was discussed last week, as we talked about, between Rodgers and with Favre's retirement, that he was coming back.
Here it comes.
And so in our local area, like I said, we're from Wisconsin, but we're from southeast Wisconsin. They were a hot topic, of course, and we've heard this 100 times, but we thought, why not talk about ourselves now that after he retires, maybe it'll never be talked about again, which is highly doubtful.
It will be talked about until Aaron Rodgers is in the Hall of Fame. It will be talked about.
Bart Starr still comes up into conversation, so they
who's actually the best quarterback in Packers history.
Yes. But I said to Scott during the week, I said, why don't we talk about this? Why don't we bring it, especially because anybody who does watch our show, who are actual fans.
And I think it's kind of a controversial topic because you really could go either way with it. Yeah.
So, and this is one you can definitely comment on. You can definitely say, man, that Ryan guy is an idiot.
Give us your opinions for sure.
Where was he in the 90s?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I watch, trust me. But but we want to come up with the question.
Brett Favre versus Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, and we're only talking prime. We're not talking about career.
Not career,
We're not, because Rodgers, you can't do it. Rodgers still has a ways to go.
But and Aaron Rodgers, you could still argue he's still in his prime.
You could argue that he's just at the beginning of it.
Well,
maybe when he won his Super Bowl.
Peyton Manning, I mean, he's 38. He still throws for 4,500 yards.
Sure.
50 touchdown passes. Ridiculous. After coming back from a neck fusion surgery.
Oh, yeah. Drew Brees.
Crazy.
Drew Brees saying he wanted to play until 45.
Yeah.
Because he's in his 30. 100%.
The way they the way they cuddle the quarterbacks these days, you can't really hit them.
Right.
I mean, you can't drive.
Which might give you marks in favor of Favre being in a less quarterback loving league. But
so, anyways, to ask
who do you take? Who do you take? I brought it up. Who do you take, Scott? I let you go first.
All right, all right.
That's how it goes. Co-host. I'm the co-host.
Right.
He's the host. He gets to go first.
Yeah. Honestly, I'd have to go with Aaron Rodgers. Right. Yeah, that's right, Aaron Rodgers. And for all you Brett Favre fans out there, I'm not saying it's a huge amount ahead. Aaron Rodgers is not that big.
You guys are gonna make a TWSL shirt. That stands for the Wisconsin Sports Lounge, and you're going to burn it, aren't you? And Scott's name is going to be on the back. Is that what's going to happen?
And that's fine. That's fine. For all the Brett Favre fans out there, he was a great quarterback. Phenomenal quarterback. He played every game. He put a suit on for the Green Bay Packers. Played in every game. And a lot of those games, well, with the rules these days, he probably wouldn't be able to play because of the concussion rule and all that stuff. But you could say he gave his heart and soul to every Packer game he played in, without a doubt. That being said, He won us a lot of games. But no, hey, whoa, come on now. He won us a lot of games, but he lost us a lot of games.
Sure.
Aaron doesn't make that losing game interception. He doesn't do that. He's a lot more methodical. He doesn't just gunsling it into 3 defensive backs and try to get the ball in there and throw a touchdown. Now, Brett did, to his credit, he did win us some games doing it that way. Yeah. And we may not won some of the games because if he didn't do it. But the fact of the matter is, he cost us a lot of games. And I think Aaron Rodgers overall is a better quarterback. Look at his quarterback rating. And I'm not saying quarterback rating is the best thing to look at because I think it's a little bit deceiving. But he is the best of all time, Aaron Rodgers. He's so efficient. He always gets it done. You heard it here. Yeah, you heard it here.
On the Wisconsin Sports Lounge, Scott, host, said Aaron Rodgers is greatest of all time.
Aaron Rodgers.
Just so you all know.
I didn't say all time.
So what happens in Wisconsin?
I didn't say that. Joe Montana is the greatest quarterback of all time. I will say that.
Now we have this.
I'm sorry. Joe Montana is the greatest quarterback of all time. But, going back to it, yes, I would pick Aaron Rodgers just because, yes, he's won a Super Bowl. So it's the same amount of Super Bowls as Brett. Now, the Brett Favre fans could argue, well, Brett won 3 MVPs and Aaron's got 1.
Yep.
I understand that. But he also didn't play. I mean, Peyton Manning's been putting up huge numbers. Tom Brady's been putting up huge numbers. And then you can also say, well, Brett didn't have the offense that Aaron has. I don't think that's true. I mean, you look at Brett, he had Antonio Freeman, Robert Brooks, Andre Rison. They were pretty good receivers. Now, are we saying Jordy Nelson is a huge name in the NFL? I don't think he's not one of the first guys you think of as top receivers. We know he's a good receiver, but if you ask any other team, do you actually think they're going to be like, oh, Jordy Nelson, yeah, he's a really good quarterback, good receiver?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Not.
I don't know if you're going to be saying that. You'd be saying Calvin Johnson and stuff like that. Sure. So, what is your decision then? You've been bashing me. Are you going to go?
I had to. Well, and then we try to avoid talking about this, but we've talked about this a little bit before. And I agree with him, sadly, that...
Whoa! After all that stuff you gave me, and you're agreeing with me? Okay. Come on!
Well, like I said, I grew up with Favre, so I experienced majority of it. So I saw his ups, his downs, his prime, I watched his prime. And I guess it comes to... But I still think Rodgers... I would take Rodgers, not by a lot, but I would definitely take Rodgers.
Of course. We're really nitpicking at this point, because... Brett Favre will go down as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, without a doubt. I'm not saying that. We've been very lucky to have Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers as our back-to-back quarterbacks. Yeah. I mean, that's going back to like Steve Young and Joe Montana, or Joe Montana and Steve Young.
Sure.
I mean, you ask the Lions, the Bears, the Vikings. Obviously, the Vikings got Brett Favre after 17 years.
He said it again this week.
But if you would ask them if they'd have back-to-back quarterbacks like that, anybody would be lucky to have that.
We're at what, 20-some years?
20-some years of having top-level quarterbacks?
Of having 2 quarterbacks
the Lions
that whole
gone
time?
through, what, 15, 16, 17 quarterbacks by now?
Yeah. Well, that's why I said I think it comes down to preference, in a sense.
Well, sure.
Not just the time, because I lived my core of my, early life with Favre. In the 90s, I went through all my teen years. And that's when, you got all the time to throw yourself behind, your teams, and you don't even care what they are, what they do. You hear winning, you see them throw long touchdown passes. So, I went through all of that with Favre. Most of my adult life has been, was the tail end of Favre and then Rodgers. But I think, like you said, the Favre way, which was wonderful, gunslinger and all, was exciting. It was,
you always made it fun.
But it was nerve-wracking. It was boneheaded at times, and that makes
2007 NFC Championship game.
Yeah.
Why do you make that throw?
Yeah, that's...
So
that makes it where Rodgers, watching him, will he win... The argument could even be, would Favre win you a game that Rodgers wouldn't? Sure, there might be, because he'd take the chance.
I do believe Favre would take a chance,
but
for sure.
That's kind of the two sides. But I don't know if Rodgers would get you into the position that you're at, that Favre would need to win you the game. Rodgers would, how he works is such, it's like
And that was a big topic debate
You know,
a couple years ago, and they were saying Aaron Rodgers, would he be able to go in a fourth quarter drive, take him down, and win the game?
Sure.
Well, he hasn't really had that many opportunities. Aaron usually puts himself in a position
to be ahead
where he doesn't have to do that.
Right.
So he hasn't had that many opportunities to do that, and since then he has done it.
Yes.
But I didn't really understand that debate because he didn't really put himself in a position to where he was down and he needed to score.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's the thing. To have the tight end,
Michael Jordan
to have
always
the
made the
touchdown.
last shot either. You see all the good moments they made,
Sure.
but he missed a lot of his last shots too. So.
Well, I think that's the thing. Rodgers' touchdown to interception differential is so such an amazement that it's hard to not take him now. And that's the thing. The scary thing is he might be, like we talked about, not even in the prime. Favre, we have a whole, we've got the whole painting. We have the whole understanding of what he's done, where, every memory.
And this may not even be a topic of debate, possibly, if
10 years from now.
Aaron wins another 1, 2, 3 championships, whatever
100%.
it may be, hopefully.
Even one more already makes it a harder argument to have.
Yeah, and people are making the debate whether Bart Starr's better than Brett Favre because Bart Starr's got more championships than Brett Favre did.
100%.
So
that's why we say here in Wisconsin especially, this is probably one of the hottest topics that will probably go on for
years.
It'll never
So
end. Long for as long until, and who's to know what comes after Rodgers? It could be so many bad ones that people won't even want to argue. It'll be like, man, if we just had Favre or Rodgers.
It's like, I mean, Aaron's 30. We got a good 8 years left at least. So
Yeah.
I'll worry about when that time happens.
Yeah. But like we said, it's a huge argument here. And Favre was liked all across. I mean, he was just one of those. So, a lot of people, even who weren't Wisconsinites, who weren't from here, liked Favre. So we wanna bring that up to everybody. That if you want to tell us what you feel about that, make sure you do comment when you talk. We want to know. All
right. I think we're good on the Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers topic.
Yeah.
I think we should go to maybe even more interesting conversation. The Milwaukee Brewers. I mean, they continue to play well.
Yep.
Went 2-2 against the Cubs. I was a little worried. They won. When they won the first game, I'm like, all right, we have a chance maybe to get 3. Then they lost the next 2, which the Cubs, I think they're going to be a good up and coming young team. So I think they did a good job. They pretty much just cleaned house and said, you know what, we're going to suck the next 4 or 5 years, but our prospects will eventually get there and we'll be a pretty good team.
Yeah,
I think next year they might be pretty decent.
Yeah, which is what a lot of teams do.
So and then they end up getting the 4th game of the series. Yeah. And getting 2-2, and then
which is what we hoped at least would happen.
That's what
as we talked about.
I mean, that's the least you want. I mean, especially going on the road against an under 500 team, you're going to have to win these games if you want to get to the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then coming to the LA Dodgers,
which we were nervous about again, especially.
I mean, you're going with Greinke
first
and Kershaw in the first 2 games. If you get 1 out of those 2, you'll be very happy.
Yep.
And they end up getting 2 of them.
Yep. Nail biter yesterday. I mean, 3-2.
Oh yeah. Well, then today, I mean, as we speak, they're still playing.
So,
but they were up 7-0, top of the 8th. Hopefully, they can get this sweep. It'd be a huge sweep against the LA Dodgers.
It sure would.
And we're talking, the Dodgers were 70-53 when they started this series. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Well, and when you take it for the Dodgers, the series before this Cubs won. And now this one that the Brewers have been dealing with, the Dodgers have to from their side, they got to be like, all right, we're done with the Brewers. We don't want to see them anymore. Obviously, the Brewers...
yeah, they got to be wondering what the deal is.
I mean, home or away, the Cubs team, who is not very good,
they
did really well against the Brewers.
Especially with Greinke and Kershaw. If I was a Dodger fan, I'd be like, well, we're probably getting 2 out of 3 against the Brewers here. I mean,
yeah, it's almost a lot. Almost a lot.
I mean, credit the Brewers. I mean, they were down 2-0 going into the 8th inning and stole that first game of the series against the Dodgers, getting 5 in the 8th and then tacking on another one in the 9th.
Yeah.
And K-Rod sealing the deal. K-Rod does it again.
He does.
Back-to-back saves.
And then was it
Kershaw,
the first game of the Dodgers series? He tied Raleigh Fingers 11th all time for the Brewers.
Yeah, he's passed
Or he passed him.
He
Passed him yesterday.
Yeah, he passed.
So he
passed
tied
Raleigh,
him the first game.
which is that's saying a lot. Raleigh Fingers is a hell of a player.
Wonderful, yeah. A closer that people
But-
of my era even remember.
But I mean, back in the day, closers used to go 2 to 3 innings, and that's how they got their saves. It's not like today they go 1 inning and then they're done. I mean, closers back then they earn their money.
Yeah, of course.
But K-Rod, yeah, I mean he's doing a phenomenal job. Game 2 of the series, let up a home run to Matt Kemp to get within 1 run. It was like, oh no, there's 0 outs. Is this gonna happen again? Sure enough, that changeup, nasty as ever,
Yeah.
and he gets the job done.
Yeah, looking back, before the season, I was against bringing him in, to be honest. Even what they got him for was a great deal, but I was just
I
like,
didn't think he'd be a closer. It was shocking when he came out of that first closing opportunity. I would have never guessed that.
Yeah, but it's worked out. So the Brewers as a team of this year things have been very unexpected of the Brewers.
Oh,
to be where they're
just
at.
keep hanging around no matter what.
The guys who stepped in for them, even Braun, who we thought was going to have such a down year, besides the power numbers like we talked about last week,
The power numbers are down, but and the thing I think what people were forgetting, and we didn't mention it last week, that was our fault, but he's got the nagging thumb injury.
Yeah.
And he's had that since the beginning of the year. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a nerve issue, but he continues to have that thumb injury. And I just saw a report the other day. He says he's going to have to deal with it.
Yeah, well, that's...
And I'm assuming
if the Brewers
that's why he's not turning on the ball and he's taking it the other way. He's just not able to turn on it.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that thumb injury
Well, and
really affected him.
if the record was switched, if we were 55-70,
Well, sure.
maybe they maybe they'd shut him down and say, well,
Yeah,
but
at that point, yeah, I think they might. I don't know. I don't know what they can do with that injury. I don't even know if he knows what they can do.
Yeah.
It's basically just managing it because it's not a surgery. It's not like a tendon that's that can be fixed just like that. I think it's the nerve problem, and he may have to deal with the rest of his career. So you might have to figure it out. And then they were asking the question whether should we be worried that we dedicated all that money, that $100 million contract to him. And I think I don't think we need to worry about that because even with his numbers now, he's batting 278, 15 home runs, 68 to 70 RBIs. Yeah, that's going to get you a lot of money in the major leagues.
Sure.
There's a lot of people that get a lot less production and get $10 million a year.
Easy.
So I don't think that should be an issue for the Brewers.
Yeah, I mean, and that's so. As you said, going into today, they were 2.5 games up on St. Louis. I mean, it looks like St. Louis was looking like they were going to win today, and so were we. So it'll hold. But the Pirates have fallen back. I think they're 4.5 or 5 games behind.
Well, before today, they lost 4 in a row. They've been struggling a little bit lately.
So it's a little breathing room for the Brewers, only having one main team, hounding them and not down their neck. Could have been anybody but the Cardinals, in my opinion. I'd wish, but yeah. Last thing we want to talk about the Brewers, just real quick, and it's not. And Scott told me beforehand that he's already got his opinion, so we'll do it real quick because of what the Brewers have been doing as well as they have. 2 of their starting pitchers have been hurt, and Loesch and Garza, and now they're both projected to come back pretty soon. So there's kind of a situation. They brought up Fires, who's been excellent. 14 strikeouts in his last win.
In 6 innings.
I mean,
that's
14
strikeouts since Ben Sheets in 2004.
So, and then Nelson, who was their 5 before all those guys went down. So if those guys come back...
Jimmy looks good. I mean,
yeah.
You see that movement on his fastball?
Yes.
Without a doubt. He's going to be a very good pitcher because he's got some nasty stuff.
So the question, I guess, is who gets the 5? Because you're not going to get rid of Garza and Loesch. Now, unless an injury happens again to them.
No, you pay Garza a lot of money, he's going to be staying in there.
Who gets the 5, and what do you do with Fires? Do you keep him here and let him go into a long relief type of position like an Estrada's got? Or do you send him back down so he keeps pitching, keeping sharp with what he's doing? That's
a tough question. That is a tough question. Fires...
Because technically,
you may have to keep him in the starting lineup as the 5 because he doesn't have the stuff Jimmy Nelson has. I think Jimmy Nelson could come in and pitch 1 inning, throw 95, and he's fine. He's got a lot of movement on his fastball. Mike Fiers, it probably takes him a little bit to get that changeup going. I don't know if he'd be so good out of the bullpen. I mean, it's yet to be seen. But it's tough because they've both been pitching really well. So either way you go with it, I think it will be all right.
And that's, like I said, it is a situation, and it's been good for them. But that's the thing. We can have Garza and Loesch come back, and they do really badly, and people are going, why didn't you keep Fiers as a 6 and have him play every once in a while, give them more time on,
I think they'll give him the time they need. When Garza's ready, he'll be ready. He's been in the league a long time. He's not going to come back early when we're actually doing fine. He's not going to risk that. Why would he?
Yeah.
Because he's going to be, if we make the playoffs, he's going to be very big for us. It's going to be Loesch, Gallardo, and Garza. Most likely going as the first 3. Maybe, but Peralta might be in that 3 spot. I don't know. I don't know how they'll go, because usually in the postseason you go with 3 pitchers.
Yeah, yeah.
Peralta's been pitching out of his mind. He's got 14 wins.
Oh, man.
He's
they're
second in that now.
They're talking about him all over the place.
He's second in the league in wins right now. So
oh man.
And he's got the stuff to be a 3. So I don't know. It'll be interesting.
Well, for the Brewers, like I said, for the unexpected team that no one expected this. They've got a lot of good things going.
Yeah, it's right into the end. Just keep trying to pull out series, trying to do our best,
and hold on to the lead.
Yeah,
that's
hold
what
on to the lead.
Don't get that wild card. Hold on to that lead as best you can.
At worst, get a wild card.
Sure.
I'd be okay with getting a wild card just based on. You're still in the playoffs.
Yes.
You'd have to win that playoff. You'd have to win the playoff game to get into the playoffs. But still, you at least have a chance. But hopefully, they keep surprising me. I don't know what else to say about them. They just keep winning games, and everybody else is just as shocked as we are.
Yeah, that's why I said it's not just good to be Packers fans, but it's very good to be Brewers fans right now. These last couple of years.
Yeah, we've been very, very lucky. You can't say it. Look at Cleveland. They're starting. They're starting to come up with LeBron James coming back, and then Johnny Manziel. But over the past decade, Cleveland hasn't been the greatest. For fans.
Not so much.
So we've been lucky.
Well, that's our Brewers talk. Next week we're going to be talking again Packers and Brewers as we have. Packers have Oakland in their 3rd preseason game. Pretty much the best preseason game. Starters will play a whole half. Pretty much gives you a whole half of a game that's exciting. That's everything that you expect of the main season. And then Brewers, they've got 2 series coming up. It's actually kind of a slow week for them, which is good. They're kind of ahead of everybody. They got 2 games against Toronto, and then they have a 3-game series against Pittsburgh for the weekend when we'll be talking to you again. And so, as I said, hopefully in those 5 games they get 2 or 3 out of those, and we're looking pretty good as we're at. So, is there anything else that we have to talk about next week?
I think we do. Are you ready for the challenge?
You mean the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge?
Hell yeah, let's do it.
All right. I'm ready to do the Ice Bucket Challenge, but before I do, I want to issue a challenge to Adam from Admit 1. You have 24 hours to accept the challenge or donate. Let's do this.
Oh, man. You ready, buddy? Alright guys, I'm up next, and I'm tagging in this Ice Bucket Challenge Sean from Admit 1. You have 24 hours to either take the challenge or donate.